go ahead and get. Perfect.
Thank you all so much for joining us today. My name is Rachel Karras, and I am the digital manager and web editor at the Stanford Humanities Center today. And I'm presenting today with Kristen Sarton from Kalamuna. We're going to be talking about rethinking the humanities at Stanford and a case study on our new digital platform and our excellent website that we've launched over the past year.
Thanks, Rachel. Yeah, we're going to be walking through the process we undertook together, our collaborative partnership between Kalamuna and the Stanford Humanities Center to launch the new hub platform. So we're going to look at project initiation and partner selection and walk through the process of discovery, design, and implementation, take a look at what's next for the website itself, and then answer any questions you all might have. And here's our contact information. We have another slide at the end if you want to reach out with any questions, but feel free to connect with Rachel or myself, and we'll be happy to answer any questions. But so excited to be here with you all today. All right, Rachel, over to you.
Absolutely. So if you can switch over to the next slide. Thanks, Kristen. So there were several catalysts for why we got started on this project. So coming into this project, we had two existing websites. We had Arcade, which is a digital salon website that had been run out of DLCL, which is the Division of Literature, Culture, and Languages here at Stanford. And then we also had the website of the Stanford Humanities Center. And now, one of the just sort of really nuts and bolts catalysts for the project is both of these sites were on Drupal 7, and the upcoming sunset of Drupal 7 meant that we needed to migrate the sites to either Drupal 8 or Drupal 9. And this opportunity, or this need, gave us an opportunity to redesign and re-architect the sites to reflect the fact that Arcade was coming under the auspices of the SHC. It was moving from being under DLCL to the Stanford Humanities website. We also wanted the chance to reimagine the Arcade and SHC sites. We really wanted to make both sites an interactive digital platform for a wide range of users, everyone from faculty and graduate students, both here at Stanford and at other institutions, to those members of the public who attend our events here at SHC to participate in really exciting, dynamic humanities research. We also wanted to set the SHC apart, not just as a leading humanities center among institutions in the nation and around the world, but to set our site apart as a hub for advanced collaborative humanities research. So these all gave us the catalyst to get started on this. We decided to work with Kalamuna. We had been working with Kalamuna on the Arcade site since 2016. They'd already been doing some really fantastic work for that site. And Kristen can talk more about Kalamuna's work with other groups at Stanford.
Yeah, over our 10-year history as an organization, Kalamuna has worked with several Stanford divisions. So we are thrilled to be able to add Stanford Humanities Center on to the work that we've done with Arcade, and to continue our track record of collaborating with the Stanford community. As well, higher education is a key focus for us at Kalamuna, so it really made sense for us to continue this engagement and work on this exciting project with the team at the Stanford Humanities Center. So as we were getting started, we wanted to make sure that we were following the process that we follow for all projects, big and small, here at Kalamuna. It looks a little bit like this. So it is an iterative, agile process, but we always want to follow this path through figuring out, what we're doing on the project in a discovery phase. We really want to get the insights of the who, the what, and the why that will be utilizing the web property that we're developing. Once we really understand that, we move into design and implementation, where we're looking at the content, the design, the user experience, as well as the implementation in whatever content management system we're working in at that time. And then, of course, we deliver and launch the site and really set up our organizations, our partner organizations for support. So whether that's us supporting the website or them being able to work with their teams to support on their own. So again, this is the process we follow through every project, big or small, and we were able to utilize and adapt this to work with the Stanford Humanities Center on this project in particular. Also, people are at the heart of everything we do at Kalamuna. We take a very user-focused usability approach with all of our projects. So that was no different for this project in and of itself. As mentioned, we obviously started in discovery. So we wanted to give you an overview of our discovery process and some of the findings and activities that took place throughout our discovery process as we kicked off this project itself. So like I said, we really want to dig into those insights, figure out who the users are that are coming to the website, both internal and external users. So we really focused a lot on the users from the Stanford Humanities Center and the arcade publications in terms of what they're needing to get out of the website. We focused on the requirements, the what is needed there, and the why, the strategy behind it all, to really pair it all together into those insights to figure out what our goals and our outcomes are going to be for the remainder of the project. Like I said, we really wanted to focus on usability. So we wanted to make sure that things were efficient, that users are able to accomplish their tasks quickly. We wanted to make sure things are effective, that the quality of the information is there to support the user goals, and that users are feeling satisfied with their experience from the site. So we wanted to make sure that things are efficient, effective, and satisfactorily accomplished. We also wanted to follow some basic usability principles. So we wanted to make sure that the design elements were designed consistently. So whether you're going to SHC or arcade or switching between both, there are design patterns there that are easy to learn and predictable. The interface itself, users must be able to find their way around and understand how to interact with it. So especially when we're talking about interactions between multiple web properties, we want to make sure that interface is really easy to interact with. We want things to be predictable so that, when users are, for example, linking to an external resource, there is some sort of indicator to let them know that they will be going off-site and they're able to predict the consequences of their actions. We want to make sure that the site's really legible. We want things to be easy to comprehend and easy to review. And we want to focus on the user's attention, right? We want to make sure that we're focused on those user goals and that there aren't anything to distract them from those goals. So minimize the number of distractions to make things more usable. For this project in particular, in the discovery space, we were looking at user experience research. So this was conducted through stakeholder interviews and surveys. We looked at analytics. We looked at the content of the sites that we were looking to reimagine. We also looked at some comparative sites to be able to get insights from what others are doing well or not doing well at other institutions and organizations. And we really focused on those user types and what their main goals were when they were coming to the SHC site or the arcade site. We also looked at content strategy, so digging into the audit, doing a fuller review of the content itself and putting together some strategic recommendations to really enhance reader engagement. Of course, we also looked at providing that roadmap to Drupal 9 and what the implementation space would look like, and we pulled it all together in this recommendations report. So digging into some of our findings here, we started with a technical analysis of the existing sites so that we could do an inventory of what the sites were doing now. Of course, we knew a lot of this already going into it, especially for arcade, but we really wanted to wrap our heads around the SHC site and figure out what the technical backbones were that we needed to accomplish. So some of the highlights from this analysis were around security. So both of the sites we looked at had very minor security problems with the content headers that we knew needed to be resolved when we were reimagining and redeveloping the sites. As Rachel said, we also wanted to take this opportunity to clean up the Drupal architecture. So we wanted to look at content types and taxonomies and really make some recommendations on how to clean up, merge, and simplify that to really help make maintenance easier as with the new sites. We also looked at the contributed modules and what that upgrade path was at the time with Drupal 8 and Drupal 9, see what that replacement looked like in the space, as well as, if there was anything that we need to make a custom module or pull into the core of Drupal 9, as it turned out to be. Of course, we looked at those custom modules again and provided some strategy around how to reorganize and reduce some of those with some of the contributed modules that had come onto the platform. We also looked at performance. We wanted to make sure that the new sites were performant in terms of speed and optimized for mobile devices. So, we made some recommendations for improvement there. And we looked at roles and permissions. Over the course of the lifetime of a Drupal 7 site, you can imagine that the number of users grew, and we needed to take a look at that roles and permission structure to really make sure that things were streamlined moving forward for their management. Next, we dug into some interviews, and Rachel's going to talk through some of our stakeholder research.
Sure. So as you can see, we did a number of in-depth interviews with people who were stakeholders with different connections to the website. So as you can see, we talked with a number of staff members here at the Stanford Humanities Center, as well as a few faculty members who are not directly affiliated with the Humanities Center, but partner in great depth with the Humanities Center and therefore are very close to our mission and our activities. We also did surveys with all of Humanities Center staff, as well as all of our arcade editors, so staff members who had been working with that side of the website for a number of years. And we came across sort of a few consistent issues. One was that both sites seemed to be lacking a clear, cohesive message, that there was no one identity of either or both websites. Our surveyed stakeholders also indicated that something they really wanted to see on the SHC website were community features, that the site really wasn't engaging enough. Similarly, they found that the content on the SHC website wasn't really distinctive. There was nothing that set it apart from other Humanities Center websites. And similarly, in terms of content, there was some tension about the type of content on Arcade. It wasn't really clear if it was for a scholarly audience, if it was esoteric and in that sense, or if it was more meant for a general public audience. There seemed to be, again, a lack of cohesion and consistency. So these were all of the main pieces of feedback that we went into this process having in mind. So with those pieces of feedback in mind, we set out with these few organizational goals. So, this language in the first tab, move from a monastery to the hub, it's a very sort of humanities scholar thing to say. I'm personally a medievalist, so this speaks to me on a real intellectual level. But it really is about the way we're facing as a website. Are we really internally facing, which is what a monastery sort of is? Or are we more external facing, which is what a hub is and which is what we want to be? So to really shift that from being an internally facing and organized website to an externally facing and organized website. As I've mentioned before, we really wanted this website to be the place to engage with humanities, research, and discussions at Stanford. So the place for all Stanford faculty and grad students and community members to engage with the humanities, and a place for all humanities scholars to engage with the humanities at Stanford. Likewise, to advance top research in the humanities, one thing that Arcade does beautifully is it showcases and publishes humanities research, gives scholars a place to do that. Tell the story of our research by opening up the research process, pulling that curtain back a little bit and letting our users see sort of maybe a less polished and peer-reviewed side of humanities research, more of the moment writing. Translate the humanities to the rest of the university, give other Stanford stakeholders who may not be experts in the humanities or researchers in the humanities have a really good sense of what's happening in the humanities. And finally, of course, as is true for so many organizations at an institution like Stanford, give us an opportunity to increase funding and donor participation, just like we want non-humanities scholars at Stanford to see what's going on in the humanities at Stanford on our website. We want to give potential donors the chance to look at our website and see, wow, there's this really fascinating research happening here at SHC. I want to be supporting that. And so we wanted to be able to highlight our research in a way that would be really exciting to potential donors.
So through the course of our discovery process and having those stakeholder interviews, we put together some guiding principles. So we asked our stakeholders, what are some words that you use to describe your dream version of the website? So here, the number one word that we heard was dynamic. So that was definitely one of our priorities moving forward. We wanted the site to feel ever-changing, elegant, motivating, easy to use, bold, fun, exciting, unique, impressive, together, satisfying, integrated, a picture of what it's like at SHC, really intriguing and informative. So we use these guiding principles through the rest of the course of the project to really, level set our feedback and our decisions that we were making together. Are these decisions we're making, do they harken back to our guiding principles? We've mentioned users a couple times. So we spent a lot of time identifying the user types that are visiting to the site and the user types that we want to prioritize on the site, as well as what their goals are when they come to the site. So some external users that Rachel's already mentioned throughout the course of our work together that we were really considered how they would interact with the website, as well as those internal users, the people that are on there, using the website, the content management system in Drupal, editing the content, adding the different research articles to the site itself. So we wanted to make sure that the website was usable for both types of users, both internal and external, as well as the breadth of the different goals that they have when they're coming to visit the site. We mentioned analytics. Just a quick look at things that we looked at. We took a look at heat maps. These are always really exciting to see where people are clicking on the site, what's kind of working, how people are engaging with, at this point, the old site, as it were, in the spreadsheet or in the screenshot. So just really giving us insight about what's working, what's not, and how we can maybe make some improvements with the structure of the new website. We looked at this on desktop as well as on mobile. We also looked at scroll maps so we could see how far down the page users were scrolling when they visited the site. And that gave us a really good insight about where to put certain key calls to action. And also ways to maybe increase engagement by having users scroll further down the page to, continue to whet their appetite, as it were, as they are looking to dig into the content, because that's really one of the main goals of Arcade and SHC, really get the users to engage and dig in with that content. We saw that desktops and phones appeared to be the preference of choice for our users. Tablets weren't very active overall. So we knew that we really needed to have a responsive design with a flexible layout, but give users on all platforms a usable experience. We also wanted to make sure that we are highlighting things like the newsletter sign up, places where people can really engage with SHC and learn more, become part of the community. We wanted to make those more effective. And we wanted to make sure that there was something of interest farther down the page so that as users scrolled there, they kind of had some reason to do so. So we wanted to make sure that there were opportunities for driving readers to dig deeper into that content. We took a look at Google Analytics to figure out, kind of our reach of the website. So both Arcade and SHC, their reach is global. So we knew we had to consider that when we were looking at the redesign. Of course, California as the top state in the nation visiting the site, but again, visitors from all sites are coming to the websites. We looked at the demographics of the users that were going to the website, again, kind of getting some insight into what they might be doing, what they might be looking for. And we also looked at the technology that they were using. So the different devices and web browsers that they were using to be able to figure out, what we needed to make sure that we were testing for, as well as expecting for the users to be able to use the site and make it usable for them. We looked at the different traffic sources. So how are people getting to the website? This was very important so that, the SHC team can make sure that, their marketing networks and their external efforts are being found. They're being found on the website and through search engines as well. And we looked at the popular content on the site, and what we found is there's really a long tail of content here. So, obviously the homepage is number one. What are the humanities? Is a very important page as well. People want to understand what that means, and that's a lot of search engine optimization is going into that page in particular. So we wanted to make sure we didn't lose that exposure. And of course, fellowships were also very important. But as you can see, there's a lot of content and people are engaging with all areas and sections of the site. So we wanted to make sure that we took that into consideration when we were doing the redesign. These screenshots were for SHC itself, but we did the same analysis with the arcade site as well, looking at the top entry pages, so where people are coming to initially. We also took a look at some of the surprise pages. As we mentioned, the why do the humanities matter? That page was very important and had a lot of SEO value. So we wanted to make sure to highlight that and not lose that value with the redesign itself. We dug deeper into the content. So we found we did a site crawl and we found that there were, some potential issues with the content that we wanted to make sure we weren't replicating with the new site. So, every time you upload an image, making sure that it has an alt tag, alternative text, so that both search engines as well as screen readers can make sense of the images on the page. We wanted to definitely look at page titles, make sure that they were no longer than 30 characters or 60 characters, excuse me. Wanted to make sure that our 404 errors were reduced. And if a user does get a 404 error, they're able to easily get back to another page of the site so they can kind of figure out where to go. Of course, we also wanted to make sure that we were using meta tag descriptions, adding things like H1 headlines, making sure our title tags were in place, having an XML sitemap for the search engines to crawl, as well as look at the readability of the site overall. As Rachel mentioned, a lot of the content is very research oriented. So we're looking at college level readability, when sometimes digital content should be a little bit more in that 6th to 8th grade reading level, knowing that things on the arcade site are definitely going to be outside of that. We looked at the mobile friendliness in terms of text legibility, as well as finger targets and image optimizations to make sure that we could improve the performance on mobile devices. So really, we wanted to highlight navigation and findability on the redesigned sites. We knew that could be improved. We wanted to make sure that the readability was really there for all audiences, and make sure there were really clear calls to action that weren't hidden in things like sliders. Last, we really wanted to focus on SEO and accessibility to make sure that people are able to find the site, as well as utilize all of the rich features once they get to the website itself. So we looked at some other comparative organizations and did some analysis. This is kind of a rough screenshot of our rubric that we used with the organizations redacted there at the top. But yeah, we wanted to see what was working well for other institutions, what things they could be doing better, what we could do better in our redesign. So, there was lots of room for improvement across the board. So it was an interesting exercise to look at some other organizations. We also looked at some other EDU websites to see what people like Princeton, Harvard, Yale, Johns Hopkins, Duke, and Boston University were doing in terms of their navigation labels. What content are they featuring? What layouts are they using? So that those could be some inspiration for our redesign. So once we had the discovery process underway, we had a lot of tools in our toolbox to be able to move into the design and implementation of the project itself. We felt like we had a really good sense of what we were trying to accomplish, what the goals were for the organization and the users, and we were really excited to move forward and to create a new design system for SHC and Arcade. Rachel, did you want to talk about the vision that we were looking to create?
Absolutely. So we've sort of hinted at this already a few times, but one of the things that really sets this this platform apart is that it uses a sub-site structure. So we took these two disparate sites. We had the Stanford Humanities Center website and we had Arcade, and we needed to find a way to bring them together in one website. And what we struck on was this sub-site structure, where we have one overarching website, which is when you go to shc.stanford.edu, it takes us to this homepage that was built, this front page, Stanford Humanities Today. And then within that site, you can navigate to the Stanford Humanities Center website, and you can navigate to Arcade. And this really gave us the opportunity to bring both things that we needed to present into this dynamic space.
So our first initiative in the design phase of the project was to look at wireframes. So wireframes are the blueprints of the site, right? It's all about the structure, not so much the look and feel. And we really wanted to focus on some of those key areas of the site that we knew needed improvement or could stand for some extra focus. So we looked at obviously those three home pages that that Rachel just mentioned, the Today page, the SHC homepage, as well as the Arcade homepage. We really wanted to make sure that that initial landing place had a lot of focus and emphasis on it so that users would feel confident digging into the content itself. We wanted to look at events. Giving, of course, is always important. News, the fellowships, workshops, and bios for the staff and the team there at SHC. As Rachel mentioned, we were at this point in the project determined the structure of the website itself and how we were going to kind of combine these websites, what the URLs were, lots of discussion back and forth about how to handle this and how to tackle it. You know, as I mentioned, not losing any of that SEO value, but keeping things separate but together, if that makes sense, with those sub-site structures. Here's kind of a, you know, mind-boggling view of the wireframes that we created for this for the project itself, and this gives you a sense of the design system that we were looking to impart to the SHC team. So they have all these different components that they can use to build pages with specific structure and order in place for some pages that we defined in this wireframing process. So we really wanted to make sure that it was a design system, that each of the websites had their own unique system that we could work through, but there was that consistency. The users knew what to expect, and you know, we had these layouts that were easy to navigate through. We had a really robust review process working through the wireframes with the SHC team. We reviewed the wireframes in iterative batches, and we got feedback in a presentation as well as after the presentation once the SHC team had time to dig into it and discuss things on their own. So we really encouraged them to answer things like what's working well, what isn't working, and why. Is there anything missing on this wireframe that needs to be there? Or is there anything that we need to remove from this page? Doesn't make sense to be here. Maybe we need to keep that for later or have it on a deeper page, something like that. But those were the kinds of conversations we were having. We had these documents that pulled together the feedback along with the context where we talked about those guiding principles and that those discovery findings every time we kind of went into this review. So we could really have that top of mind to make sure that the website was harkening back to those initial outcomes and goals that we wanted to make. Once we had a good structure of the blueprints, we were easily able to move into the visual design element of the project. So this was the setting the visual design direction. So this was color, typography, the user interface elements. As I mentioned, we really wanted to create this design system that could be used on the website as well as off of the website and other marketing materials and other branded elements for both the center and arcade. And we did this through utilizing what we call style tiles and mock-ups. So we're not mocking up every single page of the site. These sites are huge and massive. That would be super inefficient. So we create what we call style tiles, where you can see the components and how they play together without having to necessarily see them mocked up on every example page. But we do mock up several high priority pages, home pages, things like that, so that we can really see how those pages should be structured and get a sense of the look and the feel that will take place once the pages are built out in development. So here's kind of the three home pages that we referred to, initial iterations of them. They're not exactly what you'll see live today, but this was kind of how we set this design system of the three websites playing together. They're part of the same family, but they're not identical twins, if that makes sense. So it was our way of creating the structure and this hub of integrated websites. We had the same really robust review process with the iterative process of reviewing those style tiles and mockups, really focusing on what's working well, what's not working. Is the color addressing your needs? Does it reflect your brand and identity? How do things feel? Do they need to be more colorful? Do we need to be more minimal or neutral? We wanted to have this professional and dynamic and engaging experience, but sometimes too much color, too much dynamism can make things not feel as professional or as educational as they might need to be, if that makes sense. We also looked at things like corners, should they be rounded? Should they be blocky? We spent a lot of time looking at some of these details to make sure that it reflected the brand of SHC as well as Arcade. Once we had a really good design system in place, we moved into implementation. And this really started early in the process when we were looking at the requirements approval doc. We have this very robust spreadsheet where we're looking at the various requirements of the website, talking through the details, who's able to edit it, what are the permissions around it, how do things react once you click a checkbox and things like that. So we really dug into a lot of detailed conversations with the SHC team to make sure that what we were building for them really meets their needs, and we were rebuilding the right elements from the current websites and not spending our time reinventing the wheels if things are really working well, but also finding ways that we can improve and use the new tools in Drupal 9 to really streamline that process for the editing team in particular. Of course, we started with back-end development and then, flowed that front-end style on top of it as it made sense as we were working through this iterative process. And we really took accessibility to heart. Of course, anything in higher education, we have to think about those accessibility requirements. And for this website in particular, we wanted to make sure that accessibility was a cornerstone and an initial thought with our design and development process. As Rachel mentioned, we have subsites, right? This is not a multi-site structure. So this is an innovative context-based solution that we've developed for the SHC subsites as they are. So this allows for the sites to have their own custom look and feel, but they share code and a database. So some of the great benefits of this are things like Drupal security updates. They can be applied across all of the subsites at once. Content can be searched for and featured across sites. So there's a lot of interplay between the SHC site and the Arcade site so that we can surface things that make sense and really make it have that hub feel. We also have a shared user base. So, Rachel has an account on both sites and she's able to edit both sites, but she only has one username and login. So it's shared across the subsites. But for maybe not so much for Rachel as an example, but for other users, they might have different permissions on different websites. So, they might be an admin on one website and an editor on another, or vice versa. So we're able to kind of have more robust permissions management with this context-based solution. It's also scalable. So the team's able to add subsites in the future, and those subsites can reuse components that are already created. We can have new components that are newly developed for that particular subsite and pull them back into the other website. So it's really a great, sustainable path and an option for them to be able to grow and innovate through this hub experience. So speaking of that, we want to kind of touch on what's next for SHC and Arcade.
So one of the first things is my presence in general. So I've sort of been speaking throughout this presentation as if I've been a part of this project since the very beginning, which is a little bit misleading because I've actually been a part of the team only since the beginning of March. I came on board here at Stanford and here at the SHC in early March because as the other members of the SHC were going through this process with Kalamuna, they realized that it was really crucial to have a staff member who could be a devoted web manager and digital editor to really focus on this website. And so I came on board, I brought in a sort of wide variety of experiences. I myself have a PhD in English, so I have that background in the humanities, but I've also spent the past 6 years in higher ed digital communications. So I could bring those two experiences together. So I'm on board now to really make this site continue to be the best that it can be and to continue evolving into the best that it can be. Some of the things we have on our horizon. So Arcade has a number of different types of content. One of those types of content are the publications. Arcade is the home to 3 different digital journals. Those publications are the last things that still need to be migrated to Drupal 9. So that's the very next thing up. Obviously, sometime in the not too distant future, we'll need to make that migration to Drupal 10. Likewise, we are about to transition to Google Analytics 4 to keep an eye on those demographics and the other analytics and start making decisions about how we may perhaps change our content to change our analytics. And of course, continued support, bug fixes, security updates, feature development. We get little weird things that crop up, like an article we try to share it on social media, and for some reason, the image isn't sharing correctly. And Kalamuna is incredibly responsive with getting back to us and giving us updates of when those little bugs will be fixed. So those are all of the things that are on our horizon. And as I said, continuing to make this site grow and evolve to support the needs of all of our different stakeholders.
All right. So with that, are there any questions from the crowd here that we can answer about the process that we went through, the project itself? I don't see anything in the chat, so feel free to raise your hand and ask a question if you have one.
I know we are so close to time. I'm going to drop my email address into the chat just so that if you have any questions that come up, and I'm also dropping the URL so that you can check out the website. Please feel free to either send me an email. Kristen just dropped her email in there as well. Send Kristen an email. Please, we welcome you to check out the site. And if you have any questions that come to you later, something that, as you're going over your notes, I wonder how they did this. Please feel free to shoot us an email. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you so much, Kristen and Rachel. This has been really great. And I think it's really helpful as, our websites are always evolving. And it's nice to see, what the process looks like and what you went through. It's really helpful, and all of the things that you pulled together and what all needs, what all goes into it. So we really appreciate you coming to Stanford WebCamp and presenting today.
Our pleasure.
Yeah, it was great. Thank you so much for having us.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.